So let's get started in video part 2 of Around the World in 80 Days, chapter 35, in which Fogg does not have to repeat his orders to Passepartout twice. The dwellers in Savile Row, now that's where Fogg lived. Now, his neighbors were surprised that Fogg had actually returned. So would have been surprised the next day if they had been told that Phileas Fogg had returned home. So that was not something which they were expecting. His doors and windows were still closed. No appearance of change was visible. So there was no telltale signs. कुछ किसी चीज से ये पता नहीं चल रहा था कि फॉग वापस घर आ चुका है. क्यों? क्योंकि वो 5 मिनट लेट पहुंचा था लंदन. After leaving the station, Mr. Fogg gave Passepartout instructions to purchase some provisions, घर में खाना वगैरह बनाने के लिए, and quietly went to his domicile, where the person's place of residence where he stayed. He bore his misfortune with habitual tranquility. Now, tranquility means being shant, being very calm. He's being very calm. Now, this particular phrase, with his habitual tranquility, and he bore his misfortune. यानी कि किसी भी तरह से ये किसी को पता नहीं चल रहा था कि इतनी बड़ी ट्रेजेडी हो गई है कि वो 5 मिनट लेट आने की वजह से एक शर्त को हार गया. So he bore his misfortune is a phrase which means that he did not show any signs of anger or bitterness or sadness because of that. He was just kind of being very calm with his habitual calmness, because that is the way he always was. Ruined and by the blundering of the detective. Detective की गलती के वजह से उसके इतने सारे पैसों का नुकसान हो गया. Okay, so this particular passage is important. After having steadily traversed that long journey, traverse मतलब यात्रा करने के बाद, overcome 100 obstacles around the world, braved many dangers, and still found time to do some good on his way, that is saving Auda. He still found time to do some good on the way, to fail near the goal by a sudden event which he would not have foreseen. He could not have imagined that he would be arrested by Detective Fix, and against which he was unarmed. He was not prepared for it. It was terrible. But a few pounds were left of the large sum he had carried with him. You know, the amount of money that he had carried with him, there was still some amount which was left, pounds which were left. There only remained of his fortune the 20,000 pounds deposited at Barings Bank. Barings is a bank in London, in England. And this amount was to be given to his friends because that was the bet. So great had been the expense of his store that even if he had won, agar wo shirt jeet bhi jata, it would not have made him very rich. And it is probable that he had not sought to enrich himself, being a man who rather lay wagers for honor's sake rather than for the stake proposed. यानी कि उसने जो शर्त रखी थी, he had bet more for his honor than to actually make money, right? And he had actually spent a lot of the money. So even if he had won the wager amount of 21,000 pounds, it would not have made him very rich because he had actually spent a lot of money on the trip itself. Right? So in that sense, this particular wager where he now will have to give money to the friends will actually completely ruin him. Mr. Fogg's course, however, was fully decided upon. He knew what remained for him to do. Course means future course of action, future events, what he needs to do. A room in the house in Savile Row was set apart for Auda, who was overwhelmed with grief at her protector's misfortune. She was very sad that this is what is happening to the man who saved me. From the words which Mr. Fogg dropped, she saw that he was meditating some serious project, that he was thinking seriously about doing something. Knowing that Englishmen governed by a fixed idea sometimes resort to the desperate expedient of suicide. Now, expedient of suicide means something like this could lead to something. That is what expedient means, you know, something which can actually lead to him dying by suicide, killing himself. You know, when people are depressed, they could take the extreme step. So this is something which his servant knew. So Passepartout kept a narrow watch, kept a very close watch on his master, though he carefully concealed the appearance of so doing. He did not let him know that he was kind of keeping an eye on him. So he was doing it in a very clandestine, in a very quiet kind of manner, without letting the master know that he was keeping an eye on him. He had found a bill from the gas company. First of all, the worthy fellow had gone up to his room and had extinguished the gas burner, which had been burning for 80 days. So he had got a hefty bill from the gas company because the gas was burning for 80 days. He had found in the letterbox a bill from the gas company, and he thought it more than time to put a stop to this expense, which he had been doomed to bear. You know, ये तो गलती हो गई ना, gas खर्च हो रहा था, and he had to now pay the bill. The night passed. Mr. Fogg went to bed, but did he sleep? Auda did not once close her eyes. Passepartout watched all night like a faithful dog at his master's door, keeping an eye on him. Mr. Fogg called him in the morning and told him to get Auda's breakfast and a cup of tea and a chop for himself. He desired Auda to excuse him from breakfast and dinner, as his time would be absorbed all day in putting his affairs to rights. That is, he had to he's coming home after such a long time, 80 days, that is 2 months and 20 days. So he had to set right a lot of things. In the evening, he would ask permission to have a few moments conversation with the young lady. So that's what his plan was. Passepartout, having received his orders, had nothing to do but obey them. He looked at the imperturbable, means someone who is very calm, who does not get very worried or troubled easily. Okay, master, that was Fogg's personality. तो अगर Fogg के ऊपर answer आए, question आए, तो आपको ये सब लिखना पड़ेगा. And could scarcely bring his mind to leave him. His heart was full and his conscience tortured by remorse. Remorse means sadness, for he accused himself more bitterly than ever of being the cause of the irretrievable disaster. Irretrievable means something which cannot be set right, something which cannot be repaired. Yes, if he had warned Mr. Fogg and had betrayed Fix's projects to him, betrayed, matlab, if he had revealed what Fix was planning to do with him, that is to arrest him, he could have prevented his arrest. He could have ensured that Fogg was prepared to confront Detective Fix. His master would not have given the detective passage to Liverpool, and then, he would not have allowed the detective to come to Liverpool. ये सब पहले होता है before the extract. Passepartout could hold in no longer. My master, Mr. Fogg, he cried. Why do you not curse me? It was not my fault. I blame no one. Go, he said with perfect calmness. Passepartout left the room and went to find Auda, to whom he delivered his master's message. Madam, I can do nothing myself, nothing. I have no influence over my master, but you perhaps. What influence could I have? Mr. Fogg is influenced by no one. Has he ever understood my gratitude to him is overflowing? Does Fogg understand that I'm extremely thankful and indebted to him? Did he read my heart? My friend, he must not be left alone an instant. So she also feels worried for Phileas Fogg. You say he's going to speak with me this evening? Yes, ma'am, and probably to arrange for your protection and comfort in England. We shall see. Suddenly becoming very pensive. Pensive means someone who is very deeply thinking, someone who is absorbed in their thoughts. Throughout this day, Sunday, the house in Savile Row was as if uninhabited. That is, it was so quiet that it looked like वहां पर कोई रहता ही नहीं था. And Fogg, for the first time since he had lived in that house, did not set out for his club when Westminster's clock struck 11:30. So he did not go out at all. Why should he present himself at the Reform? Why should he present himself at the Reform Club? His friends no longer expected him there, as Phileas Fogg had not appeared in the saloon on the evening before, that is the 21st of December, at 9:15. He had lost his wager. It was not even necessary that he should go to the bankers for the 20,000 pounds, because he had already given the check. They only needed to put the check in the bank, and they had only to fill it out and send to the Barings to have the amount transferred to their credit. So pehle he had already given a post-dated check to them. Mr. Fogg therefore had no reason for going out, and so he remained at home. He shut himself up in his room and busied himself putting his affairs in order. Affairs means jitna bhi kaam kaaj tha, he was trying to get everything, his life back in order. Because ye pura ghate ka sauda pad gaya tha uske liye. Passepartout continually ascended and descended the stairs. The hours were long for him. He listened at his master's door and looked through the keyhole as if he had a perfect right to do so. So he was keeping an eye on him, and if he feared that something terrible might happen any moment. And as if he feared, he usko dar tha ki kuch ho jaye. Sometimes he thought of Fix, but no longer in anger. Fix, like all in the world, had been mistaken in Phileas Fogg. Pehle he was very angry with Fix, but later on not so much, because he thought that he had genuinely made a mistake. Okay, while he had only done his duty. So he had only performed his duty. And this thought haunted him, and he never ceased cursing his miserable folly ki wo apne aap ko zyada kosta tha instead of blaming Detective Fix. Finding himself too wretched to remain alone, he knocked at Auda's door, went into her room, seated himself without speaking in a corner, and looked ruefully. Ruefully means in a very unhappy and a sad kind of an expression, with a sad expression. Auda was still pensive. She was calm and thinking. About 7:30 in the evening, Mr. Fogg sent to know if Auda would receive him, that if he could meet Auda in the other room. And in a few moments, he found himself alone with her. Phileas Fogg took a chair and sat down near the fireplace opposite Aouda. No emotion was visible on his face, neither happy nor angry, no expression. Fogg returned was exactly the Fogg who had gone away. So the Fogg who had gone 80 days back was the same Fogg who had returned. There was no difference between the two Phileas Foggs. There was the same calm, the same impassibility. You know, there is nothing could really pass through him. You know, he was very opaque in that sense. He sat several minutes without speaking, then bending his eyes on Aouda, ma'am, will you pardon me for bringing you to England? कि मेरी गलती हो गई कि मैं आपको इंग्लैंड लेके आया. I, checking the pulsations of her heart was beating fast because she was in love with him. Please let me finish. When I decided to bring you far away from the country which was so unsafe for you because he had rescued her, I was rich and counted on putting a portion of my fortune at your disposal so that, you know, I could actually, you know, it would be like, you know, I would be a rich man and I could actually pass on some of the riches to you. Then your existence would have been free and happy. But now I am ruined because मैं bet हार गया हूं, so I have lost a lot of money. I know it, Mr. Fogg, replied Aouda, and I ask you in my turn, will you forgive me for having followed you, and who knows, for having perhaps delayed you and thus contributed to your ruin? That because of me, you got delayed. Because of me, if you had not saved me and spent that time, you would have probably made it in time here in England. Ma'am, you could not remain in India and your safety could only be assured by bringing you to such a distance that your persecutors could not take you. Persecutors means people who were looking to harm you or kill you or whatever, right? So he says that, you know, I could not have left you back home in India. So Mr. Fogg, resumed Aouda, not content with rescuing me from a terrible death, you thought yourself bound to secure my comfort in a foreign land. So she says कि एक तरफ तो तुमने मेरे को बचाया from a terrible position, and then you thought you will make me comfortable in a foreign country like England, and therefore, I mean, are you feeling guilty for that kind of a thing? She's trying to be sarcastic, saying that, you know, you are so good and yet you are feeling guilty about all this and you are asking for forgiveness. Yes, ma'am, but circumstances have been against me. Still, I beg to place the little I have at your service. जो जितना कम मेरे पास है वो भी मैं तुमको देना चाहता हूं. But what will become of you, Mr. Fogg? As for me, ma'am, I have need of nothing. You know, मुझे मेरी जरूरतें नहीं है. But how do you look upon the fate, sir, which awaits you? कि तुम्हारे भाग में क्या होने वाला है उसके बारे में तुम क्या सोचते हो? As I am in the habit of doing, कि मैं, you know, मैं कर्तव्य में विश्वास करता हूं. He believes in doing. At least want should not overtake a man like you, your friend. So she says, want, you know, जरूरतें should not kind of be more that for a man like you, your friend. He says, he interrupts her and says, I have no friends, ma'am. Your relatives, he said, I have no longer any relatives. I pity you then, Mr. Fogg, for solitude is a sad thing, which means you are lonely, you are alone, and that's a sad thing. It's not a very happy thing to be completely alone without having any friends or relatives, with no heart to which to confide your griefs. You have nobody in who you can actually go and tell your problems. You know, you don't have a shoulder to cry on. They say, though that misery itself shared by two sympathetic souls may be borne with patience. But if two sympathetic souls can actually share that, they can do it with a lot of patience. They say so, madam. So she's talking in a vague manner and he kind of agrees with her. Mr. Fogg, do you wish at once a kinswoman and friend? So she now proposes to him. Okay, so it is the lady who proposes to Phileas Fogg. Do you wish at once a kinswoman? Means someone who you will be like, you know, will be a lady and a friend. Kinswoman can also be interpreted as someone who you will get related to. Will you have me as for your wife? You know, will you have me for your wife? Please note the preposition used here, for your wife. Mr. Fogg at this rose in his turn. There was an unwanted light in his eyes. Unwanted means, you know, it is not something very expected. It is unexpected. And a slight trembling of his lips because he's taken aback. Aouda looked at his face, into his face. The sincerity, the rectitude. Rectitude means which is morally correct behavior. That he is very proper, that he will not do anything which is improper or wrong. The sincerity, rectitude, firmness, and sweetness of the soft glance of a noble woman who could dare all to save him, to whom she owed all, at first astonished, then penetrated him. You know, she was looking at his face at very close. He shut his eyes for an instant as if to avoid her look. When he opened them again, I love you, he said simply, yes, by all that is holiest, I love you and I'm entirely yours. So he accepts her proposal. Ah, cried Aouda, pressing his hand to her heart. Passepartout was summoned and appeared immediately. Mr. Fogg still held Aouda's hand in his own. Passepartout understood, and his big round face became as radiant as the tropical sun at its zenith. Mr. Fogg asked him if it was not too late to notify the Reverend Samuel Wilson of Marylebone Parish that evening. कि पंडित को बता सकते हैं क्या कि शादी करनी है. Zenith means the height. Radiant means very bright. Passepartout smiled his most genial smile, very nice smile. He said, never too late. I will go and inform him. It was 5 minutes past 8, 8:05. Will it be for tomorrow, Monday? For tomorrow, Monday, Fogg said, turning to Aouda. Yes, for tomorrow, Monday, she replied. Passepartout hurried off as fast as his legs could carry him. So he decided to go immediately to the priest to inform him that his master wishes to marry at the church. So I'll pause here. Chapter 36 in the third video, chapter 37 in the final video is how we will do this particular chapter. And then you can read all the question and answers which have been put in the PDF. Okay, so now I'll see you in chapter 36. Yahan tak ka, I hope you have understood. Tata, bye-bye.